Charleston always had that quiet charm, like a town frozen in time. But for Liam and Karen, it was more than that. It was where everything began. They grew up side by side, as if fate had glued them together from day one. For years, it was just them. Bikes, backyard picnics, whispered secrets in the old treehouse. Those childhood promises like, "You're never leaving my life, you know?" And back then, it really felt like they never would. But time kept moving, and things started to shift. Slowly. Almost too subtle to notice. A look that lingered a bit longer. A silence that used to be easy, now suddenly felt full of things left unsaid. Karen started to feel things she didn't quite understand. A tightness in her chest when Liam talked about other girls. A weird kind of nervousness when he touched her by accident. And Liam, well, he started writing songs that kind of sounded like they were about her, but he never said it out loud. It was like they both knew something was growing between them, something way deeper than friendship. But neither one wanted to be the first to say it. Maybe out of fear, maybe because deep down, they knew, once that line was crossed, nothing would ever be the same. The truth is, something changed that summer, and even if they pretended it hadn't, their hearts were already speaking louder than their words. Charleston stayed the same, but between Liam and Karen, something quiet had already started to scream. Senior year showed up faster than they expected. Suddenly, everyone around them was in a rush, rushing to grow up, pick a college, fall in love, live everything before it's over. Karen felt Liam drifting, not in an obvious way. It was quiet, like someone slowly closing a door, thinking you won't notice. And then came the invite. Liam asked another girl to the fall dance. Karen played it cool. She smiled, wished him luck, even made a joke about it. But inside, it stung. It stung because for the first time she realized he might actually be leaving. Not just for college next year, but leaving her heart. The night of the dance, Karen stayed home, lying on her bed, scrolling through old pictures of them on her phone. She tried to convince herself she was just being dramatic, but her heart wasn't buying it. For the first time it hit her. He might never know. Never know how much she felt, how badly she wished it had been her, how seeing him smile with someone else cracked something inside her she didn't even know was there. And in that quiet moment, alone in her room, Karen finally understood. She wasn't just Liam's best friend. She never had been. Time passed, and with it came distance. Liam left for NYU in New York. Karen stayed on the West Coast, at UCLA. Two completely different worlds. Different weather, different schedules. Almost like they were now living in parallel universes. At first, they tried to stay connected. Late-night video calls, funny texts during class, random photos just to say, "Hey, I'm still here." But slowly, things started to fade. Not because they didn't care, but because real life has this way of stealing time from you. Karen dove into new circles, new friends, new experiences, but no new smile made her heart skip the way it did when Liam popped up on her screen. And Liam? He tried to act too busy to miss her, but she lived in the spaces between every song he wrote. Sometimes, Karen found herself wondering what would have happened if she'd been the one at the dance. If she'd just said how she felt, before distance did what it always does. Cooled down what no one had the courage to warm up. Liam, on the other hand, carried a quiet guilt. He knew he'd messed up. Knew that kiss never happened because he was a coward. And every time someone mentioned the girl from back home, he'd fake a smile. But his chest tightened. They moved forward, in their own ways. But the truth is, neither of them really moved on. Because some people don't leave us just because we change our ZIP code. Christmas in Charleston always smelled like cinnamon, with lights strung across Victorian houses and that nostalgic air that made everything feel like an old movie. Karen came home after 2 years. She didn't know exactly what to expect, but she knew seeing Liam again was inevitable. Her heart jumped the second she heard he'd be around too. They hadn't seen each other since they left for different sides of the country. Barely exchanged messages in the last few months. And now, they were going to see each other, face to face. It happened at the treehouse, the same one from their childhood backyard. It felt like time hadn't passed, or maybe it had passed too much. Liam looked different, more grown up, quieter, with eyes that carried things he clearly wasn't ready to say out loud. Karen tried to play it cool, but her voice shook. She knew this moment meant something. They laughed. A lot. like they were trying to make up for 2 years in one afternoon. They brought up old memories, teased each other's hair, talked about college, dreams, and disappointments. The connection was still there, untouched, only deeper now. But in certain silences, it felt like they both knew they were standing on the edge of something. Like one wrong move could reopen everything that was never said. And still, neither one could walk away. Because sometimes, seeing someone again feels like coming home, even if everything else has changed. The night was cold. Charleston had that damp chill that stuck to your skin. But up on the roof of Karen's parents' house, they felt disconnected from the weather, lying side by side, staring into the dark sky, not saying much, just feeling. Up there, under the stars, silence spoke louder than words. Neither of them really knew how they ended up there. A casual invite, a soft "wanna go up?" with a shy smile. And now here they were, so close, yet somehow still miles apart. Karen's heart was racing like it was trying to say something. Liam stayed quiet like he was fighting something inside. The talk started light, some laughs, some small talk. But the tension, it was there, hanging between them like fog. And then it happened. The silence stretched. Their eyes met. There was no music, no perfect movie line. Just a look, full of everything they'd never said. Then came the kiss. No warning, no rehearsal, no words. Liam leaned in slowly. Karen didn't pull away. Their lips met in a soft, almost shy kiss. But it said everything. It didn't scream. It whispered. It was brief. But it changed everything. When they pulled back, neither spoke. Their hearts, though, they were screaming. But their mouths stayed quiet. And that silence was louder than any confession. They both knew. The line had been crossed. They weren't just friends anymore, but they didn't know what they were now. All they knew was nothing would ever be the same again. The kiss had happened. It was real. But what came after? No one saw that coming. In the days that followed, Karen waited for something. Anything. A message, a call, a "we need to talk," even a "that was a mistake." But nothing came. Liam just disappeared. No explanation. No goodbye. Like the kiss had been some fleeting winter dream. She kept asking herself what she did wrong. Did he regret it? Did she push something he didn't want? Her thoughts spun in loops, and the ache in her chest settled somewhere she didn't even know existed. Liam, on the other hand, was silent too. But not out of indifference. It was fear. Fear of messing everything up. Fear of admitting that what he felt was deeper than he could handle. He felt broken and didn't want to pull Karen into that mess. But she didn't know that. To her, his silence was rejection. And that hit harder than she expected. It wasn't just disappointment. It was emptiness, where there used to be hope. Karen threw herself into school, friends, routine. Tried to move on. She faked it well. But every time she saw his name, even accidentally, something in her cracked all over again. They had shared a moment that could have been the beginning of everything. But it became a quiet ending, buried under everything left unsaid. And sometimes, what breaks you isn't what happens. It's what never had the chance to. Months had passed. Karen had stopped waiting for answers. She accepted, the best way she could, that Liam had chosen silence. But that didn't make it any easier. Then, out of nowhere, the truth showed up. Through a mutual friend. A casual conversation that changed everything. Liam had lost his mom, right after that Christmas, an aggressive cancer found too late. He spent weeks in the hospital, days without sleep, nights without a floor beneath him. And then, he broke, quietly, slipped into a kind of sadness no one around him really saw, or knew how to help. Karen felt a pressure in her chest so strong she could barely breathe. Suddenly, it all made sense. The disappearance, the silence, that distant look in his eyes that night on the roof. She hated herself for judging, for thinking he had just walked away. When in truth, he was trying not to fall apart completely. Liam never told her because he didn't know how. Because he thought showing pain was weakness. Because he believed pulling away was the only way to protect her from his darkest side. But Karen, she would have stayed, if he had let her. And in that moment, she understood something deep. Sometimes, people don't disappear because they don't care. They disappear because they care too much. and just don't know what to do with it. It was on an ordinary afternoon that Karen found the letters. They came in a cardboard box, handed over by the same mutual friend who'd told her about Liam's mom. He asked me to keep these. Said maybe one day he'd have the courage to show you. But he never did. And now, there they were. 7 letters, all handwritten. Some stained with tears, the ink smudged. Others filled with anger, confusion, longing. All of them, every single one, were about her. The first was right after the kiss. Liam wrote that he couldn't stop thinking about it, that he felt like a coward for running away. In the second, he was already in the hospital with his mom, and writing seemed to be the only thing keeping him sane. The words were raw, real. I'm sorry I disappeared. It wasn't about you. It was about me, trying not to drown. Karen read each one with a tight chest. It felt like hearing his voice again. Like he was on the other side of the page, trying to fix what silence had broken. The last letter, written months later, said he still thought about her every day. That he still wondered what would have happened if he'd stayed. If he'd let her stay. Karen cried, hard. But it wasn't just sadness. It was something close to relief. Like finally it all made sense. Like those letters were what she had needed to hear all along. Even if they came too late. Because sometimes what we need isn't presence. It's truth. Years had passed. Karen moved on, graduated, changed cities, started over. So did Liam. They each followed their own path. New places, new faces, new chapters. But there was always a part that never felt finished. A sentence left hanging. It was a rainy afternoon in Portland. Karen walked into a small bookstore, the kind that felt like it kept secrets between its shelves. She just needed to hide from the world for a while. Maybe grab a coffee. Maybe forget. But there, between the narrow aisles, she saw him. Liam. Older, calmer, with the same eyes. Those eyes that always said more than he ever could. He saw her too. And for a moment, the world just stopped. They didn't speak at first. They didn't need to. The time between them dissolved like fog. They talked. About life, loss, lessons learned. About how everything had changed, and how somehow nothing had. It was strange and familiar all at once. Like the heart remembered what the mind had tried to forget, and then came the moment. This time there were no doubts, no fear, no confusion, no silence. Just 2 hearts that knew exactly where they wanted to be. The second kiss wasn't shy. It was full. It was certain. It wasn't a new beginning. It was a continuation. Because some stories don't end. They just wait for the right time to begin again. The second kiss wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. Or maybe, the return of something that never really ended. Karen and Liam chose not to rush. No labels, no grand plans. Just continuation. They moved forward carefully, knowing all too well how fragile time is, and that not everyone gets a second chance. They started talking every day. At first, just messages. Then, long late-night calls. The connection, unlike before, now came with maturity, with honest pauses, with real listening. Liam learned to stop running. Karen learned how to ask. When he visited her in Portland weeks later, it wasn't some fairy tale moment. But it was coffee on a Sunday morning, a walk through the park, laughter on the couch, and eyes that now said, "I'm here." They both carried scars. Both had endured loss, silence, bad choices. But none of those wounds stopped them from starting again. If anything, the scars helped them love more patiently. One afternoon, lying on the couch, Karen whispered, "Do you think what we have is love?" Liam didn't answer right away. He thought, took a breath, then looked her in the eyes and said, "I don't know what love is for everyone, but if it's this, wanting to stay even when it's hard, finding peace when I hear you laugh, missing you even when you're right here, then yeah, I think it is." Karen smiled, the kind of smile only someone who's hit rock bottom and made it back can give. And in that moment, they both understood they didn't need to chase a perfect ending anymore. Because maybe love isn't an ending. Maybe love is this, continuing. Even after the silence, even after the time, even after the fear. Some stories don't need eternal promises or picture-perfect endings. Sometimes all they need is 2 people willing to keep going, even after the pain, even after the silence. And maybe in the end, love is exactly that. Not perfection, but presence. Choice. the courage. If this story touched your heart, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and drop a comment below. Do you believe in second chances in love? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that make your heart beat a little stronger.